All right, welcome to the Savage Nation. Today we're going to talk about not Epstein, not the Epstein Barr virus, not Weinstein, not Einstein. Today we're going to talk about raping the earth because that's coming next. We've been hearing drill, baby, drill. Well, call me a tree hugger. Just call me a tree hugger, see if I care. Attack me for saying we should preserve the earth for future generations. Go ahead, make my day. I really don't care what the diehard fools have to say right now. Listen to me carefully. Learn from the past, learn from history. Raping the earth is not a conservative value. The gross domestic product, or the GNP, is not the most important thing on the planet, any more than wearing fancy clothing is the most important thing about a person's character. If we permit any administration to rape the earth, what we're doing is putting a knife in the heart, not only of our children's children, but of ourselves. Conservatism is a conservative value system, not just making as much money as possible. That's stupid. Look at the things that people say. The earth is fine, you can't save it or hurt it. What the hell is wrong with people? How stupid can people be? If it wasn't for environmentalists back in the 70s, every bay and water in the world, in this nation rather, would be polluted because they were polluting the bays, they were polluting the rivers. How stupid can people be? If you pour waste into a river, you destroy the river, idiot. Conserving nature, it's a great value. I'm a conservationist, not an environmentalist. I don't use conservation as a Marxist weapon. But I'm not going to sit here and say rah rah sis boom bah for everything this administration does. And I know what they're planning to do in Alaska and everywhere else. And I'm coming out ahead of the curve on this. I found something I wrote in 1981 for the Sierra Club Bulletin. Oh, Michael Savage wrote for the Sierra Club in 1981. You see, that proves he's a pinko communist. No, proves no such thing. It proves that I wrote something for the Sierra Club Bulletin in 1981. And I stand by every word I wrote. I found it by accident the other day for an article I wrote in 1981 for Runner's World. Oh, you wrote for Runner's World or something or other. You're not MAGA because you wrote for World. You're a health food nut. You're an environmental nut. Yeah, well, call me what you want. I was 40 years ahead of my time, and right now I'm on time. So I was searching for an article I wrote for Runner's World from 1981, and I couldn't find it. Instead, we stumbled upon a Sierra Club Bulletin article I wrote in 1981, which was so startlingly on target, I had to read it to you. It's called Learning from China's Sorrow. Oh, he wrote about China in 1981. That proves he's a commie pinko. MAGA. MAGA. Let me read it to you. Learning from China's Sorrow, the Sierra Club Bulletin, May, June 1981. It's hard to believe that I wrote this in 81 and it goes for this Secretary of the Interior today who's about to rape the earth in the name of MAGA, in the name of money, dollars, cling, cling, ching, ching. Our new Secretary of the Interior, 1981, might study the lessons learned in China more than 4,000 years ago, I wrote, before he pursues his schemes for new sources of national revenue. It's actually shocking. The Yellow River, in some ways similar to our Mississippi, used to be bordered by great forests. People lived without taking more than the earth could give. Then Emperor Shun came to power, and decided to cultivate the banks on either side of the 2,500-mile river. Long stretches of forest were turned into ashes. For a while, there was rejoicing over the land being plowed and seeded because the land, rich in humus, grew crops more plentifully than expected. Emperor Shun's name entered into thankful prayers. Eventually, the topsoil washed into the river. Dust storms in summer and floods in spring turned the river valley into a vast wasteland. No longer restrained by forests, the river waters became an enemy of the people who grew poorer each year. 2,000 years passed in this impoverished land until Emperor Qin appeared. He attempted to correct the vast error. He wrote, "He who fails to plant a tree," unquote, "shall go coffinless to the grave. He who fails to plant a tree shall go coffinless to the grave." It was so inspiring to me, and I'll tell you why later. Unfortunately, this order was blocked by feudal lords who earned vast sums from the forests higher in the valley. Many people went to their graves without coffins. The land was not reforested. The Yellow River is still known as China's sorrow. I concluded this article with the following: Mr. Secretary, we cannot afford to place the gross national product above all other considerations. We can, in one poor administration, destroy the collective inheritance granted this nation. Strip mining in Colorado, a parking garage in Lake Tahoe with a greater capacity than the one at San Francisco International Airport, throttling the Wild River, drilling for oil near the few remaining coastal refuges may produce revenues in the short run, but will leave us with 1,000 American sorrows, I wrote in 1981. And I added this today: raping the earth is not a conservative value. Now, I could end it at that, but I guess I want to stay on with you for a while. This was in 81. I'm looking for a book I wrote in 1975 called Plant a Tree. I'd spent 3 years writing that book, researching state by state, town by town, village by village, on how to regreen America. No one remembers that book. It's such an important book. I went to the Harvard Botanical Library to get antique pictures of great trees in our cities and country places. Beautiful book. I can't even find a copy of it. It may be up there somewhere in one of the books. But why is this administration, which is allegedly a conservative administration in some regard, so intent upon exploiting every last blade of grass, every drop of pure water? Why? Is there no concept of tomorrow in the mind of this administration? Is everything this minute and only this nanosecond? Yes. This is not the first administration to live this way. Other nations have the long view. We have a short view. We know about short views and what they can produce. I can go take that little statement about short view, long view, and apply it to Israel, Gaza. I could apply it to Israel, Iran. I could apply it to Ukraine, Russia. But I just did. We're looking at short views, not long views. In almost everything that we are doing in this country, not solely from Donald Trump, not just from today, virtually everything that is done in this nation is for today. It's like fast food as opposed to slowly cooked, organically grown food. Everything we do is for the short fix. It's the milkshake, not the milk, etc. Raping the earth is not a conservative value. I have to repeat that several times. Now, I realize that many of you get what I'm saying and many of you don't understand what I'm saying. You're saying, well, you know, this or that. Try to understand we don't own this earth. We're all just visitors. It's also about mortality. I was thinking about my own mortality. Of course, I have been thinking about my own mortality since I was 5 years old. For some reason, even as a child, I was concerned about mortality, my mortality, the mortality of family members. I don't know why some children do and some children don't. Some children live in the present and have a great fun life. I was always one of these kids who thought about what's going to happen when I pass away? What's in the other world? Is there a God? I was one of those kids. So now I'm thinking about the earth. I'm thinking about America. I'm thinking about the long view of America. Donald Trump will be out of office in 3 years. Then what? Who are you going to worship then? I mean, I don't even want to talk about him right now. I'll be honest with you. I can't take it anymore. The word itself is driving me crazy. It's in everyone, every minute, every second, everyone's words about him, 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 him. The nation has to be about more than a man. It has to be about the presidency and the future of the nation, not about a cult. And if you worship a man, be prepared for the consequences. I myself only worship God. I don't worship man. I don't care who the man is. I don't care how much good that man does. Don't worship man. Worship God. It'll help you put things in perspective. To rape the earth for $1 is the most anti-conservative thing an administration can do. Drill, baby, drill. Why, we're going to drill, baby, drill. We're going to rip the earth apart. We're going to take out every resource we can get. Drill, baby, drill. Yay! Think it through. Think about the article I wrote in 1981. Think about those in China 4,000 years ago who cut the trees on the banks of the river to plant crops and the topsoil running into the river. Think about that. Think about that. Think about paving things over. Thinking about cutting down national forests. Think about ripping open Mother Earth. How much can the earth take? I ask myself many times. Sometimes I awaken and I look around I live near the water and I watch the birds. I watch the common seagull or the gull, who is not very common at all. One of the smartest birds on the planet is the gull. You have to study them, as I have for so many years, to get to know them. I watch them through the cycles of nature, through life and through death. They're one of the few birds that most birds have facial recognition. The crow does, for sure. The gull does. Other gulls do. Anyone who's watched a flock of pelicans flying in formation as they skim over the top of the water has to sit back and wonder and say, God is great. You have to get on your knees and say, God is great. When you watch pelicans fly this close over the water in a formation, in a flock, if you're not awed by that, I don't know what will make you move inside. You know, the earth moves for me when I see the pelicans flying in formation to begin with, how they change point. You talk about intelligent design. If only humans were as smart as pelicans in terms of socialization, I say to myself over and over again. Why do the pelicans fly where one leading the pack and they keep shifting point? Because the bird in front encounters the most wind resistance, in that the bird in front, makes less wind resistance for the bird behind it. So they keep shifting point to preserve energy. But there's another reason. That's one explanation. But I, as an observer of nature, have come to a different conclusion. They shift point in addition to, for reasons that I just described, of wind resistance and saving energy, so that any one member of that flock can become a leader should the other one become sick or die. And we have one person leading this country, one genius at all times. Genius. They're absolutely the smartest person on the goddamn planet. Biden was the smartest man on earth. There was no one smarter in all of America than Joe Biden, and we had to let him lead the flock right into the turboprop, right into the turbofans. Now we have another leader, smart in some ways and not so smart in others. He's not all-knowing. No man is. That's why we have a cabinet. That's why we have advisors. That's why we have a separation of powers. That's why we have different branches of government. We don't have an autocracy. We don't have a monarchy. We don't have a king. We have a government of the people, by the people, and for the people. Does that mean every person on the internet should be heard? No, not at all. There's a lot of morons out there. There's a lot of idiots in government. Always have been, always will be. A lot of greedy scumbags in every government. A lot of degenerates in every government. There's nothing you can do about it. It's just human nature. That's why you have shared powers. So you come to the best consensus opinion for who? Who is the best consensus of opinion in a government for? The leader? The best for him and his family? Or the best for the nation? Think about that one. And what is best for the nation? That's the bigger question. That's a very hard one to answer when we have such a divided nation. But that's a topic for another time. But let's get back to the fact at hand, excuse me. Learning from China's Sorrow, the Sierra Club Bulletin, May, June 1981. Raping the earth is not a conservative value. I'll read the conclusion again, and then I'll maybe either go on to another topic entirely, or I will say goodbye for now. Cold morning here in San Francisco. Another bitter cold. You know the Mark Twain line, I never spent the colder winter than the summer in San Francisco, but it's been like this for months. Months, impossible to live here. It's becoming unbearable. It's been like this for months. The wind, the cold, the fog. It's not just the summer, not the June gloom. It's been going on for months. We've had like a black spring here, quoting Henry Miller. We've had a black spring here. Sometimes I have to drive into the beautiful part about this Bay Area is you have microclimates. You could drive 10 miles and be into a summer zone. Just you go over a zone where the mountain blocks the bay fog and you're in a summer. Sometimes I do that to get my summer. I mean, I'm getting older. How many summers do I have left? After many a summer dies the swan, boys and girls. Oh, now I'm going to launch into a personal story about my health. I'm not going to do it. I could do it. If I was on the radio in the old days, it would be now a launch into that with new music. It'd be like a music break. And I'd still go into a reverie about health and then the family health and people's health. And you'd start calling about health questions. But we are here as visitors. We're here as visitors on this planet. We just visit planet Earth. Is it a trial for another world or other worlds? I don't know. Choose from your belief system. Did we choose this existence as we were in the other world in order to clear our karma, as some would believe? We choose an existence. I'll be Michael in this thing. I'll be born in the Bronx on March 31st, 1942, and I'm going to live that way to clear out my karma. Is that what happened? I picked it. I chose to be here now at age 83, this minute, this second with you on the air. I don't know. I predetermined every second. That's a little meshuggah. Children sometimes think that way, like they have a deja vu, that they've dreamed that they were there before. We've all had those shocking insights, and we reject them. I don't really know the answer to those questions. We're not supposed to know the answers to those questions. That's the beauty of being human, is we're not supposed to know things. We can only know certain limited things. Some of us are much smarter than others in mathematics or in quantum physics or in chemistry or in linguistic skills. People can speak 6 languages. Some people have the genius of language skills. Some have phenomenal genius with verbal skills, as I do. Some have phenomenal capacity as writers, as I do. I've been writing since I'm a child. And in other ways, I have very limited capacities. And it all balances out in a way. It all balances out. We're the snowflake theory. Not everyone's equal, by the way. We're not all equal. Some are pieces of garbage, outright in worlds of their own greatness. Not a communist. God is not a communist. He doesn't make all people equal in all ways. That's stupid. Are all dogs equal? Are all birds equal? Are all cats equal in abilities and beauty? Don't be stupid for a minute. You could tell yourself that homily that you may have heard in Sunday school. No, we're not all born equal. We have equal rights in America, but we're not born equally. I had a brother who was born severely physically damaged. Why did God do that to him? Put me on my road of thought. Why did God punish my brother? What did he do? Another world? I'm supposed to believe that? I don't know. I can't ask the question anymore. I can't answer the question, so I don't ask it anymore. I'm going to conclude with something else, and that is this. So it's a little personal, but I just, it's okay. It's going to, through time now, you're going to start to hear a little bit more about it because those of you listening to me, some of you have followed me since the 70s when I was writing health books, all the way through now. If you're a very old, much older person, some are new listeners, some never heard of the Savage Nation of Michael Savage. Welcome to the show. So let's see, where do I begin? How do I tell the story succinctly and it's of some interest to you? There's a saying, a fish rots from the head down. Well, I came up with a new slogan, which is, if we're lucky, we rot from the legs up when we get older. You have a choice, I think, which is you could rot from when you get older and be like Joe Biden, where your body is still together, but your head is gone. You are where you are, and it's a sad thing to watch. The worst thing that can happen to a human being, amongst the worst things, is Alzheimer's disease because you lose your soul. You don't know who you are. You have no idea who your relatives are. It's as though the worst thing. I was formerly the director of the Alzheimer's Research Institute. I wrote some books on the subject. I became fascinated by it. So the worst thing that could happen to an older person is the loss of, they say memory, but it's the loss of your soul. You don't know who your wife is, your children. That's the worst thing. I mean, it's horrible. It happens. And your body is still good. Imagine that. My mom, may she rest in peace, when she was in assisted living in Florida, there was a man in his 40s, a big guy on the same floor with her, good looking, healthy man who had been a doctor. And he got early onset dementia. And he had to go into an assisted living facility. Horrible thing to witness, right? Why does it happen to some people and not to others? Why does some people lose their memories early onset dementia, whether it be Alzheimer's or another form of dementia? There are various theories. I can share some of them with you for another show or another broadcast. I talk in great detail to you about neurotoxic substances such as aluminum. It's not been disproven at all. It's actually the most viable of all theories about early onset Alzheimer's. The neurotoxicity of aluminum is very profoundly important to memory and brain health. But I don't want to get sidetracked. So the point is, either we lose this or we lose the body, okay? Or you die in an accident, or you have a heart attack and you're gone at 40. Things happen. Some die slowly, some die quickly, some die horribly, some die amicably, some die peacefully, some die painfully. There's no guarantee. Each day you have to get up and you have to thank God for the day. Carpe diem. Seize the day. Carpe diem. And thank God every day. It's going to help you a lot. I'll tell you that right now. This is not a God talk thing, but I will tell you right now, the most profound thing you can do for your peace of mind is recognize that you are only a visitor on this planet Earth. All you are is a visitor. You're not a conqueror. Even Alexander the Great died. You're a visitor, and you have to be humble before God. Doesn't mean you should bow down to the other man or let him step all over you. I didn't say that. There's a whole separate discussion about how to live with pride and humility. Oh, is that a big topic? I don't have the answer to that one. How to live with pride and humility at the same time? That, my friends, if you can do that, then you'll be a man, my son. Tough one. You want to strut around like this, showing your muscles? Well, go work for the FBI. So, getting back to rotting from the head down or the feet up, let me finish this up. So, a couple of years ago, I had an incident I was joking. Remember, I was in Florida. If you go on my YouTube channel, about in May, I was in Florida and I walked on the beach a lot, barefooted in the sand, warm water, taking pictures of the birds, the sandpipers. And then I did I thought an allegorically funny little YouTube piece called My Leg Belongs in a Leg Museum. So a couple of years ago, I suffered a tremendous thrombosis in my left leg, and it's still red 2.5 years later. Luckily, it was not a DVT. It was not a deep vein thrombosis. It was a surface vein thrombosis, but so painful. I never experienced pain like that in my life. So I found a great doctor, a wonderful old school kind of guy. And it was surface vein thrombosis in my left leg. And it's acting up again. It, it retreated a little bit when I walked in the warm salt water in the sand. It was for like maybe an hour, like a half an hour down the beach this way, half an hour that way, and feeling the warm water, the magnesium particularly, and the other minerals in the water obviously did something to heal my leg. I really should move to Florida, probably. Who knows? For my health. That's a separate story. So I come back here, and now this damn thing suddenly looks horrible again. I mean, the leg looked like it should be amputated from the knee. It scared the hell out of me the other day. It's like blue down here by the ankle. The vein is bulging. So I go back to this doctor. I says yesterday, and he says, "Look, there's no chance of it. Low chance of it blowing out and you bleeding to death. It'll just be a mess all over your shoe, but you won't die from the bleed." I said, "Great, I'll carry an extra something or other in my car to mop up the blood should my ankle explode." But the point of my story is God is being very good to me, which is going to lead to another piece of this story, which I have to tell you. I didn't have a choice whether to slowly age from here down or from there up. God gave me that. God made that decision for me at my inception. I'm physically active. I bicycle virtually every day of my life. I've watched most of the food I've eaten. Perhaps I drink too much, which is every night I'll have 2 glasses of wine. Maybe occasionally I'll have a vodka and a beer. 2 ounces is my limit now. It used to be 5. Now it's 2. I never get drunk. I never drink to get drunk. I drink to forget the vicissitudes of existence. Look it up. I drink to forget my mortality. For a few hours of those 2 drinks, I have no sense of mortality. I don't think about it. Otherwise, it's all I think about sometimes. So God decided to take me down from the legs up. I mean, eventually this is going to get worse. And the doctor says to me yesterday, Nixon had the very same thing. I said, okay, am I in good company, bad company? He suffered severely from this condition. People have it. I know a very strong, healthy 40-year-old who has the same condition, so don't blame me. And don't say you did something wrong. You know, everybody has to say, oh, you sat on your ass too much. Well, I did sit a lot doing radio for 26 years. I get it. I had to make a living somehow, and I had a lot to say. I shouldn't be sitting right now. I should be walking on a mountaintop somewhere. But I'd rather be sitting here because my mind is sailing along with you. I find that my mind needs thought and stimulation. The most important thing on for a human being is stimulating the brain, particularly when you get older. Never mind when you're younger. What you put into this is more important than what you put into this. What your children read, what your children see, for God's sakes, is more important than what you feed them. But that's another story. That's another book. So slowly but surely, it's coming up from the leg. And I'm going to conclude with a story from, we're going to go back together now to the West Village of New York in the 1960s. I'm looking for something like a symbol of that. I can't find it. I'm no little show and tell item. So I used to hang around in the West Village. Grew up in, born in Manhattan, 2nd Avenue and 17th Street. The hospital was just closed down. And a lot of formative years in Manhattan in my father's antique store on Ludlow Street, the corner of Rivington. Learned a lot in that market, wrote about the antiques market. Great stories, Louis and the Monkey, One Arm Frank. They all came from that era of my life. But I basically grew up in a sheltered suburban world in Queens, New York. First in a rental house. Then when they saved a little money with the GI Bill, they were able to buy a little house, $14,000. And my father died in that house, 7310 Utopia Parkway. Oh my God. Flash flood of memories. Attached house, not far from Donald Trump's detached house. We were on the poor side of Union Turnpike. And that's where I grew up. So I watched the whole world go by next to a Catholic church, neighborhood of Jewish and Christian people. I watched the people go to church every Sunday. I used to love seeing them go to church. I used to love seeing the Catholics with the head markings around Easter time, Ash Wednesday, I think, the palms on Palm Sunday. I thought it was a beautiful religion, beautiful rituals. And that was it. I grew up there. So here I am. And as I got older, we couldn't afford to pay. My father didn't want to pay, in plain English, for me to go to a private college. I remember we had this discussion once when I was a senior in high school. I went to Jamaica High School. I was an average student. I just didn't have a good memory. My mind was wandering. I was more interested in me with the braid than I was in geometry. My mind wandered on 100 things. I was a B student, sometimes a B minus. So I didn't have the grades to get a scholarship. And now I'm going to go to college. So I'm riding with my father in the car down to his market. I used to with him. And I wanted to go to a, quote, out of town college. My dream was to go to some school with a pennant, a campus, and walk around with books in my arm. I don't know. What the hell did I know? And he said to me, you're not smart enough for me to spend the money to send you to a private college. I'm not investing the money in you. You're going to go to Queens College. It's free. Well, we had a big argument, big fight. I was so angry at him to put me down like that. Was he right or wrong? It doesn't really matter whether he was right or wrong. So I went to Queens College, an ordinary school on the outside, but a phenomenally important school on the overall picture. Queens College at the City University of New York at the time still is part of the City University of New York. And it was such a rigorous, difficult education because the curriculum was based upon the 100 great books of the University of Chicago. And these kids were driven. Almost every kid in that college at the time I was there was from a lower middle class Jewish or Catholic family and working their asses off to make something of their life. And we all worked hard in that school, and no one cheated. There was no screwing around in that college. It was really tough and graded hard. Then it became affirmative action. It became a trash bin in the 80s. They turned it into a cesspool. They had to advance some dummies. The school became a shithole. But at the time I went to it, and I'm talking about 1963, it was a tough school. So I started to develop as an adolescent. I entered college at 16. And then I was like there 2 years, 18, got a car. So I was able to drive into the West Village at night. I used to love going to the Village. It was the coolest place on earth for me, from this little staid, protected world of Queens, New York, clean. My mother kept it beautifully. I wanted the wild side. I wanted the bongo drums and the girls in the black leotards with the long hair. That's the world I wanted to go to. Jack Kerouac, on the road. So I would go down to the West Village, and I used to drink in a bar called the Dugout, I think. But there was another bar, I can't remember. It was a thin bar with sawdust on the floor near the Dugout. It was the Dugout. I don't remember. And I met some of the most interesting people in my life in that bar. And there was a story of all sorts of stories. And one of the stories was There was a big American Indian guy. He was a big bone, big, strong, tremendous guy, 6'5" or something, and big, strong guy. And he used to drink a lot with everybody. We had a good time. And he once did a cartwheel after drinking. I'm sorry, he did a cartwheel down this narrow floor between the bar and the tables over here. And as he was cartwheeling, his legs knocked into an uptown woman who was sitting in the chair with her back to the center of the floor. And he knocked her on the floor by accident. And she was well dressed. She used to go down at the slum with the Bohemians. She knocks her on the floor, and he leaned down. I'll never forget. And he picked her up. He said, "Madam, I extend my apologies to you." And it was so beautiful to see because he didn't do it because he was a ruffian or an ass. He did it. He was having fun. So I got to know this Native American. I can't remember the tribe. Not important. It turns out he was a bit of a palm reader. And I was always into superstitious stuff as well as believing in God. To me, they're not disconnected. Even though the Bible says, you shouldn't. That's because they didn't want the competition. They want you to stay into the temples and give them the money. But I'm into both things, wherever the truth may lie. So I had him read my palm. Reads my palm. I had it done several times in my life. I'll tell you another palm reading. She says to me, "You're going to live long and you're going to die." I said, "How am I going to die?" I always wanted to know, how long am I going to live? How long will I live? He said, "You're going to live a very long time. Will I be wealthy? Will I be poor?" He says, "You're going to be wealthy and you're going to live a long time." I said, "How will I die?" And he said this to me. He said, "You're going to die slowly without pain from your legs up." I swear to God. Well, I got the chills right now because that's what's happening. I don't know how much longer I have. Do you know how much longer you have? Then another time, I told you the story when I wrote When Pasta Was Spaghetti. I was on an airplane over Cheyenne, Wyoming. This is now in the 1980s. Fast forward, consultant to some companies, flying in first class at the time on United. And, the company paid for it. And I told you the story. I sit down, two seats, and there's an elegant, well-dressed Chinese lady sitting next to me. I'm on the window. She's here. I try to strike up a conversation, not to come on to her because I like to talk to people and learn from them. She was not interested. She was a classy lady, didn't want to talk to a stranger. I don't blame her. I don't talk to strangers by and large unless I'm in the mood. Fine. Said hello. She wasn't interested. Went back to my little world. So we're flying out of San Francisco, and we're about an hour and a half till we're in. I don't know how long it was to Wyoming. Those days you could drink as much as you want on a plane, and since I was a flyer who liked to drink because I didn't want to think about falling 35,000 feet to Earth, I didn't care. I drank a little bit. So the drinks start coming. I'm having a good time, and I'm writing in my journal, and I write the poem When Pasta Was Spaghetti. And she sees, and we hit a storm. And the plane starts to buck. The pilot, buckle yourself in. People start to freak out. And just before they close off the service, I order two more bottles of drinks. I figure, what the hell? So I get two more little bottles of what the hell I was drinking, wine at the time. I think cheap airplane wine has to be the worst on the planet. But all right, that's what I drank. So the plane is bucking like crazy. I'm laughing to myself, not like a loony, but saying, what the hell can I do? It seemed like a fun ride. And I'm writing in my book. And this woman gets so scared, she reaches over and grabs my arm. She's frightened. Just grab the guy next to her. So then the plane calms down and we got to talk. And it turns out she was the president of a major American corporation. And we got to talk even further. And it turns out when I told her my interests were in herbal medicine, she said her grandfather was a famous Chinese herbalist. Just a true story. It's amazing how you meet people. And then she said her grandmother was a famous palm reader. There you go, Mike. Let's get out the old palm. So I had her read the palm. So she says, "You're going to live a long life and you're going to be very wealthy." I don't know how she could see the striations in the hand or something. So here I am. Here I am. with you, my loyal audience, and we're all just visitors on planet Earth. Remember, think of the Earth as an airplane, and we got on the plane on the day we were born, and we're going to get off on the day that we go to the next world. We're just visitors on planet Earth, and planet Earth is the vehicle. God puts us here for a test. Puts us on the plane to see how we behave. Are you going to behave like you're on Spirit Airlines, or are you going to behave like you're a decent human being on another airline? Have a nice day. By the way, Sunday night, I have a great show coming up on Newsmax Television. The show's doing just great. If you don't know where I am, the Savage Nation every Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. Mike, are you still working? Yeah, I have 2 podcasts a week wherever great podcasts are heard. It's called the Savage Nation Podcast with 400 incredible shows in the library. Each one is a is a piece. You know, every work I do is written like they used to call them a Persian miniature. I don't just talk. I think before engaging mouth. And if I don't think it's worth your time, I'm not going on it. It's why I don't do a daily show. I don't want to do it. I can't do it. I don't want to just babble about Jeffrey Epstein, for example, even though that's probably the biggest story of the day. As we become bigger and bigger, it could sink the administration unless they get their act together. That's a separate story for another broadcast, which I don't care to do right now. Instead, I have done this one, and I will conclude where I began on this beautiful Saturday morning. May, June 1981, the Sierra Club Bulletin. I was a diehard tree hugger, still am. And it was called Learning from China's Sorrow, and I renamed it today, Raping the Earth is Not a Conservative Value. And that's why I'm with you today. I may be back tomorrow with a report card on Donald Trump as of July 2025, 5 months into his administration. Because I asked my listeners and I mean my followers who subscribe to my podcast to get it ad-free. I don't even know how you do it, but you have to go on my website, michaelsavage.com, to do it. I asked, how's President Trump doing in your opinion? And I gave them the ability to talk to me. That's where people communicate with me. And I had sent my members who are subscribers to my podcast a series of questions. I said, dear members, how's Trump doing? Below are the questions I asked President Trump in October of 24, just before the election. I said, your opinion counts. And I asked 8 questions of Donald Trump in October before he took office. I think it was before the election. Yeah, it was just before the election. And they gave me their answers. And maybe I'll end with that, with the questions, and come back tomorrow and give you the answers. I said, dear members, how's Trump doing? Below are the questions I asked President Trump in October of 24, just before the election. Your opinion counts. And I said to Donald Trump the following. 1, you ran a huge deficit while president through massive spending. How will you reduce the national debt while maintaining all the social programs and defense spending? 1. 2, how will you force Zelensky and Putin to end their war? 3, will you cut off supplies and funds to stop Israel? I ask. 4, how will you stop Iran's mullahs from attacking Israel? 5, you made some terrible staff choices last time. Who will be your chief of staff? Oh boy, that's 5. 6, you've repeatedly quoted my book, The Enemy Within, Mr. Trump. Would you bring back UX? 7, how would you ban biological men from women's sports? 8, would you force China and other foreign nations to sell U.S. farmland at the prices they paid? That's what I asked of Donald the election. And tomorrow's show will be your answers. But today, I only wanted to talk about conserving the earth for future generations, because we don't own the earth. We're only visitors on planet Earth. Never, ever forget that. Thank you for listening. Hit the like button, whatever you have to do. Subscribe. Tell your grandmother about it. And with God's will and your listenership, Mike